Rated everyone.
This just in. The battle for Bikini Bottom will not be fought. It will be play. Help SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy foil Plankton's evil scheme to take down Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob SquarePants. The battle for Bikini Bottom, now available on your favorite game system.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, your boy was heading home from the Krusty Krab and he thought of a very special video game ahead of one that I'm very much excited for. I don't care if I'm 27. Today, we are talking about SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. If you were to ask me, this is the best 3D platformer of all time. Yes, I'm dead serious. The reason we're talking about it, in just a few short days, we get SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake. Now, we haven't had, in my opinion, a truly good 3D platforming SpongeBob game since probably Truth or Square on the Xbox 360. In between that and now, we got the likes of, say, SpongeBob SquarePants Hero Pants, which I got on the Vita and that was torturous. I was so excited for it and it really let me down. But we've had some truly good SpongeBob games in the last 2 decades or so, but we haven't got one quite like this in some time. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna sit down and break down why this sponge is the baddest 3D platformer on the block. In a good way bad. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic and retrospective content, consider subscribing with that. Let's begin with the complete box experience. So we have the original PS2 version here. We also have the PlayStation 4 remake. Obviously, PS4 remake isn't gonna have much for the complete box experience. So we're gonna focus more on the original version, which is the PS2 one. I love this cover art. I remember when I unboxed this game when I was a little kid, it was the last gift I got for, I think, Christmas in, I want to say, elementary school. So I think it was in like 5th grade or something like that. And I remember when I unpackaged it, it was a gift from my grandma. May my Mimi rest in peace. But that was the last gift of the Christmas. It was one I really wanted. And I remember sprinting to her and giving her the biggest hug because I couldn't believe it, man. Right at the buzzer, Mimi coming through. And, you know, we had this special tradition during Christmas where my family and I would open each other's gifts during the day, and then my Mimi would come over later and we'd open her gifts at nighttime because my mom and I are like Christmas freaks. We just never wanted the day to end. So a lot of special memories just tied into that holiday in general, but especially with this game right here. And boy, did it treat me well. So let's read the back of the box here where it says, the SpongeBob game the world has been waiting for. It got a 4.5 out of 5 at OPM, but it says pull off crazy maneuvers like tongue boarding or underwear bungee jumping, even launch a guided cruise bubble. Play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy Cheeks, each with their own special abilities. Encounter your favorite characters from the cartoon, including special cameo appearances. And 10 huge 3D worlds to explore, including special bonus areas and other secret rewards. It says the evil Plankton has set in motion his most diabolical plot ever. The fate of Bikini Bottom and possibly mankind as we know it has been put in the hands of 3 unsuspecting heroes. Join SpongeBob and his friends in their fearless crusade to end Plankton's evil scheme. Now, I'm going to let you know now, when I go through this manual and you start to see some of the other games they're promoting in here, you're going to be hit with a blast from the past. Now, the disc art also is awesome. You got Plankton and Gary here. I think just the green militaristic color scheme always I thought was hilarious, like SpongeBob going to war, which he kind of was against an army of robots, as we'll read in this manual. So let's go ahead, let's crack it open. You already know how it is, colorful. We got all these pictures of SpongeBob characters. Look at Squidward being downright miserable. You got Patrick clueless as ever, Plankton scheming away. And then here it goes into a bit of the story, which I know isn't super important, but I'm going to put you through it anyway, okay? Thanks. So it says, Patrick and SpongeBob are playing with their toy robots, but they're getting bored. SpongeBob has the great idea to wish upon a magic wishing shell for real robots. They wake up the next morning to discover their wish has come true, but not exactly as they had hoped. An army of mindless robots is destroying Bikini Bottom, and it is all SpongeBob's fault. Now, it ends up that Plankton was actually the man who was creating the Duplicatron 3000, and because he was deciding to do that, that's where the army of robots comes from, but they don't listen to him because he forgot to flip on the obey Plankton switch. So it's kind of funny, but it goes through our 3 heroes that you can play as I read on the back of the box. You have Spongebob, Patrick, and Sandy Cheeks using their in-game models. I thought that was kind of interesting because you literally have the illustrations here, so why not use those? But they use like Patrick looking like, you know, this is like his mugshot or something here, but I digress. These are all the items that you can collect in the game. And then here are the items that you can like break, all the different types of tikis, which are now kind of iconic in 3D platforming SpongeBob games since this game. Like so many things you see in 3D SpongeBob games all came from Battle for Bikini Bottom. Like truly a transformative 3D platformer in my eyes for their video games. But there are also collectibles like socks from Patrick beyond the golden spatulas. And then it goes through a lot of the levels, which we'll be talking about in this video. Bikini Bottom, Jellyfish Fields, Downtown Bikini Bottom. You have Goo Lagoon, Poseidome, Rock Bottom, Mermalair, Sand Mountain, Industrial Park, which is a pretty quick level if I remember correctly, Kelp Forest, Flying Dutchman's Graveyard, SpongeBob's Dream, the Chum Bucket Lab, which they smartly block out. I mean, again, I always critique these manuals. They don't seem to be itching to hide cool secrets. This one does. I'll expose some of them here in this video. Then the credits, but more importantly, remember what I talked about with the Blast of the Past? Here we go. Look at these 2 games. Fairly Odd Parents breaking the rules. That's what I want to play here. I remember that game as a kid. Like, I was so lukewarm on it. And then this game I love, Jimmy Neutron Jet Fusion. The first Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius game. Oh, my lord, no, no, no. But Jet Fusion was awesome. I'd love to go back to that one here. And then they also have some more SpongeBob promotions here. But don't worry, we're not done with the Nickelodeon promotions because look what's on the back. Tack and the Power of Juju for PS2. I know that's a one that a lot of my friends loved. I personally never played it, but that is a complete in-box experience for PlayStation 2's Battle for Bikini Bottom. Now, on the PS4, they remade it. They called it Spongebob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. This comes from THQ Nordic as the publisher, Purple Lamp as the developer. Purple Lamp's actually the one who's making Cosmic Shake, so it's worth paying attention to this game here. But when this was announced, my head almost exploded. I could not process it. Like, I love this game. But it was one of those games that, you know, it's tied up with licenses and IP. Like, you just had to imagine there's no chance this ever comes back. And they not only brought it back, but they remade it. And here you got the worst back of the box I think I've ever seen. It's just white text, couple of screenshots, white text. That's... I mean, look at the difference here, man. It's night and day what the back of these boxes do. Like, if you're gonna print a physical copy, just put the effort in on the art, please. But it says, the cult classic is back, faithfully remade in Sponge-tastic splendor. Play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, and show the evil plankton that crime pays even less than Mr. Krabs. I like that line. Want to save Bikini Bottom from lots of rampant robots with your mighty bubbles? Of course you do. Want to underpants bungee jump? Why wouldn't you? Want to join forces in a brand new multiplayer mode? The battle is on. We'll talk about all of that right now, but that's what you get in 2 complete in-box experiences. Not much for the manual stuff here. So now let's talk about why I think this is the best 3D platformer of all time. One thing you gotta understand is my upbringing, okay? So I already know some of you left your comments. Maybe I should have said it earlier, but like, obviously, I always say Maddie didn't have a lot of money growing up, so we had to really pick and choose the games that we picked up. I always talk about on this channel how I missed out on a lot of the Nintendo classics, like even Mario 64, which is definitely one of the most influential games of all time. But I never played it to completion. Maybe a good video idea for when the Mario movie comes out, I don't know, but I have not played that one to completion. So there's, I'd say, a spotty track record in my 3D platforming history, but absolutely SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom to me is the top dog because it manages to give me a ton of fan service. As like, even to this day, I love SpongeBob. Like, I will still flip on an episode. I love watching all the old clips. It is such a well-aged show. So it has all this fan service and the jokes and the exploration I'll talk about, but it was also legitimately just a great game. It's that surprise factor I talk about a lot with the early 2000s where, you know, you buy this superhero game that's just gonna be a tie-in game, and typically growing up, tie-in games were gonna be bad. Like, it was a known quantity, but you occasionally had these surprises where developers punched above their expectations big time and delivered something special. So with SpongeBob, The game we had before this was Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Yeah, I don't think I need to say any more than that. So point being is, Battle for Bikini Bottom didn't really need to be that great to sell copies, but it was fantastic on a design level, on exploration, on gameplay, and on fan service. I want to start off on exploration. So just like any 3D platformer, it's a collectathon. You're going to be getting things called shiny objects. There are these little floral patterns that you're going to be picking up all over the level. This is your general currency. But the big thing that you're always pushing towards are the golden spatulas. Now, the reason the exploration works so well for me as a huge Spongebob fan is because you can go into every location you see in the show and it's fully explorable. Like from Shady Shoals all the way to Rock Bottom to the Flying Dutchman ship, SpongeBob's house, SpongeBob's closet, Patrick's rock, Squidward's house. You can go literally everywhere in the SpongeBob universe. And I think that is fantastic on its own, but it's the way it's paced out where you won't see everything in the complete story playthrough. As you get golden spatulas, you'll be able to unlock new areas around Bikini Bottom, and there are certain areas that are walled off. So you may want to get like 50 plus golden spatulas to get inside the Krusty Krab. Not a mandatory location for the story, but a place that you want to visit, right? So it encourages you to go back, do some of the side quests, find some of the golden spatulas hidden throughout the game, and then go back inside a new place and experience more secret content. I think that rhythm with the golden spatulas is kind of the tried and true formula for 3D platformers, right? Collect the big thing to unlock a location. But I think because it ties so deeply into SpongeBob and there's so much ground they cover that's, I'd argue, unnecessary. Like, we don't need to see the retirement home of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, but the fact that they make that a place you can go into, that you can earn and go into, is awesome. And especially because inside these locations are cool interactions, or you can actually find like Patrick's socks, which is another collectible, albeit the less exciting one, but as you gain these socks, you'll be able to turn them in for more golden spatulas. So it all kind of feeds into itself a little bit. When you combine that with 3 characters that play very differently, the exploration takes on a life of its own. There are certain areas only Sandy can reach, only Patrick can reach, and only SpongeBob can reach. Each one has their own moveset, and as they kind of build it outwards, again, every character has their own strengths and weaknesses. Patrick can lift up watermelons and throw them all over the level, so you can reach higher places with him, you can hit enemies from a distance, you can hit switches from a distance. Meanwhile, Sandy has a glide ability with her lasso, and she can also lasso on to what are called Texas trailer hitches, which I didn't know until I read the manual here for Battle for Bikini Bottom. That's what they were called. Meanwhile, SpongeBob is kind of your jack of all trades. You press the triangle button, he's gonna shoot up with a bubble Viking helmet. Again, a cool little bit of fan service there for Leif Erikson Day. But he has a lot of moves that he can do, and he's gonna be the main one you're playing as, but everyone has their own uses. The game starts to get a bit of a Metroidvania feel as you get deeper into the game. Oh man, I need more golden spatulas. You'll go back to like one of the first areas, such as Jellyfish Field, and go, well, what if I pulled out like Sandy here? Where could I reach with Sandy here? And you don't necessarily always need to do that, because you could maybe reach it with SpongeBob or Patrick, but the game's systems are flexible enough to allow you to do things that they didn't really plan for as designers, which I think is always the sign of a great game. So to me, exploration and connectivity to the universe and the surprise factor are all things that really keep the ball moving when it comes to Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's just a lot of fun to go from point A to point B and see all the fan service and just go, wow, they even let me go here too. Of course, being a fan of the television show helps a lot. It helps that I grew up watching Nickelodeon pretty much exclusively. I remember sitting down for like the prehistoric special for SpongeBob. I remember sitting down for the Christmas special. Like, I remember just that was my show. The camping episode was an iconic one. I remember they made a special about that one. I watched that with my dad. Like, SpongeBob, like, probably one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I don't care if it sounds ridiculous. I know most people are like, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad. Like, I love these shows, but like, SpongeBob is comedic genius to me, because you know, when I watched it as a kid, I thought it was great and hilarious and fun. When I watched it as a young adult, I'm like, oh my God, like there's so much adult humor packed in here that I didn't know about. It's just aged phenomenally well. So I get it looks kind of man-childish to be like, in a dress shirt and tie, dressed as a character, to talk about the game and the show. But seriously, it's amazing. So again, exploration's kind of the core component here. The interchangeable characters keep that ball moving, but it's also that it just kind of feels good, right? That's something that's tough to describe in any review video. You can't convey feel other than, hey, when I'm playing the game, it feels snappy, it feels responsive, because I just played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 for this channel. 2's videos in production, don't worry. And one thing I noticed with those games is you can very easily get floaty jumping wrong. And I don't think jumping in either game, like yes, even with the master form and whatnot, feels good. But in Spongebob, it's very like clicky, like boom, boom, as Spongebob does his double jump. Same thing with Patrick. It just feels good to get around. That's important in a 3D platformer. I just love that this game is back, around, and kicking. Now, they talk about on the back of the box how you can go tongue boarding. And that's another cool component of the game is I think they're always switching up the model. Certainly it has its limited amount of systems. You know, you're either playing as one character or the other, you're bungee jumping off your underwear to reach a secret area, or you're tongue boarding. But the way they change up music, like when SpongeBob does tongue board in the episode, that you know, that music starts kicking up in the game. So they make wise use of what's in the show to kind of support what's in the game. But the tongue boarding's fun because they have different secret paths and you can of course find more collectibles on them. And they even have a whole world built around them that is probably the best one to grind if you want the platinum trophy, because you need like a certain amount of shiny objects to get all of the golden spatulas. So the platinum in this game, I want to get one day. I'm very close to it, but I have to get the rest of Patrick's socks, which are just tough to track down. Like some of them are hidden where I remember like Patrick's house I went into and you had to like hit the couch. And there was one, I think, inside the Shady Shoals retirement home. I hope that's the correct name, by the way, but I digress. In the retirement home for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, where you had to break everything. You had to break everything in Squidward's home to get the socks. So these are less obvious ones that I'll have to use a guide for. This may sound weird coming from me because I typically don't enjoy these in games because they have to be done arguably perfectly in my eyes, which I know is a hard standard to cross, but this game has good puzzles. Like I remember there was one in the Mermalair that you can do that involved like rolling around a ball and changing how it went around the entire area. And I don't think it was super necessary for the story, but you needed it to get a golden spatula. And so it was optional, but it was kind of enticing because again, every golden spatula counts. Again, it's a feel factor. Like when you're going through the level and just seeing another golden spatula and another one. And they're not super frequent, but when you do catch them, you make like a mental note. And the game does a good job of tracking that, by the way. Like you can open up the world map and go, okay, I can see like how many spatulas I have here, how many golden socks I have here, and you can go hunt them down. There are tons of like little checkpoints that you can start the level in. So tracking things down, like I was talking about, isn't relatively difficult, but it's just a phenomenally paced game in the way you unlock content, the bosses, the exploration, the depth of it. And I think just the standard setting is the last thing I want to talk about. You know, for example, when you watch gameplay of SpongeBob Cosmic Shake, yeah, there are tikis there. Like there are the same, you know, SpongeBob idle animation of him waving his arms around. Like this game kind of set the standard for what SpongeBob games will be forever. And I would want nothing less or more, frankly. Like, I think 3D platformers are great for, let's be honest, a younger audience to hop into. But at the same time, you know, it's fun for adults. And that's what I think SpongeBob's all about. Like, just as someone who loves games, enjoys the occasional 3D platformer, like, this is just a legitimately great one. And it's funny to say that. And yes, before you worry, the PS4 remake is fantastic. I say that because when I went and looked on IGN and GameSpot, I actually made a whole video on Mr. Matty about this. I had to defend this game because I think IGN gave it a 5 and GameSpot gave it a 2. Now look, obviously I'm a little biased. I love SpongeBob. I love this game. I said it's my favorite 3D platformer of all time. But this game was like, I think 30, 40 bucks out the gate. And they trashed it. They being the press trashed it because it wasn't like Final Fantasy VII Remake. They're like, it's such a low bar for remakes. What? What? First of all, to give a game a 2, but yet it is fully polished like this game is, blows my mind. I don't know what they were playing. And normally I don't trash reviews, But we gotta stop ignoring that there's like a responsibility. When you are handed a game, there's a responsibility that you know how to break one down, right? And all I saw was incompetence across the board with, out of all games, a remake for Battle for Bikini Bottom, a pretty simple to process one. But I digress. I just want to make sure any, parents looking for a game for the little kids, if you see the reviews, I'm serious when I say please ignore them, because I don't know what people are thinking. I almost call it like the pandemic effect, where just people are like miserable and there's like, yeah, I'll just beat up SpongeBob. Why not? All I know is that THQ certainly wasn't affected financially by those reviews, and the game sold well anyways. But that's all I got to say about these games here, and we'll be back soon to talk about a little bit of Cosmic Shake. So you keep your eyes locked on the channel. We're not taking off this dress shirt and tie quite yet. With that, ladies and gentlemen, take fantastic care of yourselves. Let me know your thoughts on Battle for Bikini Bottom in the comments down below. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.